because she'll want to. Doggy, you've been here for a while now and you're very loving and we love you dearly, but get off because I'm trying to do some filming. Well, let me interview you. How long have you been a dog? Really, that long? And do you like dentist? That's interesting to know. Tell all of viewers how old you are. Bless her.
No, don't be coming up here kissing me like that.
Sit. Sit. Oh, you want your belly rubbed. Bless her. Oh dear. Let's move that pillow. Right,
Nelly.
So what are we going to talk about?
Anything you want.
Hello everybody and welcome to another Conversation Couch, and today on the couch we have an extra special guest. It's Bella the dog. Wow, she's that engaged, she's yawning already. So we're going to interview Bella. No, hang on, we're not going to interview you. This is Bella, my dog. You may have seen her in a video previously. She's settled in now, haven't you, doggy? And my other guest...
It's Ryan Dempsey.
Ryan Dempsey. So we've done a few podcasts together now.
We've done a few.
Yep. So this is the Conversation Couch. So now I'm going to interview you in this Conversation Couch today.
Okay.
So
I was really excited about coming on the Conversation Couch, and now I'm a little bit nervous as soon as you said I'm going to interview you. But I will be honest, as I always am. So
okay. So people will have heard your ramblings in the industry. They'll remember you for Dempseygate, your blogs, your very honest and sincere blogs. So tell everybody a bit about yourself, your background, how you started out in the electrical industry, and kind of a brief condensed summary of where you started to where you are now.
So I'm not the typical spark that everybody says that they've come through the ranks. They left school and the family of sparks, and they've come through this whole family kind of process of granddad and daddy, and everybody's a spark. I left school and went into the military. I left the military and became a police officer, and I left the police and started training to be an electrician. I worked on the tools for maybe a couple of years and then was headhunted to move into social housing, and just went from there. Were headhunted to be an auditor in social housing, a lead surveyor, went from surveyor to a manager to head of kind of the whole, when all the Almos came together, which a local authority will have a section of housing associations called Almos. When they pulled them all together, I became head of electrical services or electrical services manager for the whole council, and it just went from there really. And now I don't do any of that. Now I'm the chief exec of a technology company.
Yeah, your career has been pretty much a roller coaster, isn't it? But what made you originally want to be a spark?
Interestingly, in the first blog I wrote, I never wanted to be a spark. I went to Leeds College of Technology, and I wanted to do electronics. And because I remember as a kid, I used to take all my dad's stereo and stuff to bits.
Yeah.
And when I was going to leave the police, it's massive respect for people who are in the police. Some of the things that they have to deal with is something that I wasn't willing to spend the rest of my life dealing with. And I said, what at a loss, what do I want to do? And I remember taking things apart, and I said I wanted to do an electronics course, and I went into the college, I got interviewed, and all the way through the whole process of getting interviewed to go on the course, up until I received all the details of the course, I thought I was going on an electronics course, and then turned up and started doing the electrician's course. So
you literally are an accidental spark.
I am an accidental spark.
Oh my God, I didn't know that. So yeah, we don't pre-rehearse or plan these. We just literally switch the camera on and just record, because it's the best way to be. Open, honest and raw. Okay, so you're an accidental spark. You evidently got yourself qualified. You got yourself doing the physical, the practical work in domestic properties. Did you do any commercial industrial?
I only did nothing kind of install ways. as soon as I qualified, I was working in Dewsbury on a big block of flats, and I was doing all of the kind of commercial side there. But it was only running it in. I never energised anything. I predominantly worked in the domestic setting within social housing, doing testing and repairs and installations of rewires and stuff. So.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough. So yeah. So there's a knowledge gap there missing, I suppose, in that
100%.
respect. But you've almost done the golden ladder without being appointed on the golden ladder. If anything, I think there are people in the industry now who wouldn't want to put you on the golden ladder, would probably want to put you in the dark box and throw away the key.
Yeah, and I get that. I'm quite loud, and I think in terms of the commercial thing, just to kind of answer on that one, is when I became a client and I started writing specifications and managing, I learned more about commercial installations than I did when I was a Sparky learning to be a Sparky.
Yeah.
And it was, I started understanding the infrastructures and the way things are done, and many a times I've went into a building that's just been done, and I've hung off and done a pull-up on the tray to make sure it was installed correctly, and if it came down with me, then they had to go back. And so I've learned bits and bobs about that, but I'm definitely, I wouldn't say I'm competent in that sector.
I remember doing all that pull-ups off of trapeze brackets and stuff, and
conduit and pulling it, and
we used to chem fix into vaulted arches, and once the chem fix had gone off, because you used to get this quick setting stuff, because a lot of the brickwork was damp because it was vaulted arches in railways, and you'd chem fix, you'd resin it, you'd put your studs in, and then within 3 hours you were coming back, and the ultimate acid test was chin ups, pull ups. Because you're like 20 stone of a bloke and you're all swinging off stuff, and when you've got the ladder on and you're pulling armours, there's a good chance you're not going to fall off. Because I remember sitting on like 2.5 metre wide ladder rack, pulling like 1854 cores with about 30 men sitting on the ladder rack, no edge protection, no nothing. The only thing that would stop you is the edge of the ladder or the studs. Now, we probably wouldn't do it like that, but as confident Sparks, we did that. That's what we did years ago. But okay, that was there you go. I've learned something new about you. So you've fast tracked, I hate to use that term, through a career of supervising, managing. You got to senior positions. You started your own technology company. So I'm going to ask you the deep probing question: why did you start a technology company?
Before I went when I worked for an electrical contractor, I remember we won a contract with a local authority, and we were doing a lot of testing, and I remember sitting in my living room one night, and my wife was sat there watching EastEnders, and I had all these and I had all these EICRs on the living room floor, and it was my job to countersign them, and as the numbers were increasing, I was finding it more and more difficult to go through all of them as well as I wanted to go through all of them. And then I people kept saying to me, you don't need to check every one. People started saying to me, you'll start getting confident with specific Sparkies, and some Sparkies, when you see the name, you won't need to check it. You can actually just sign them because you're confident with that particular Spark. And I remember just sitting there thinking, wouldn't it be fantastic if I could just take all of this data and churn it through a piece of software, and then for that software to kind of point me in the direction that I need to manage? Because I always understood as a qualifying supervisor, which I was at the time with the NIC, EIC, that it was my responsibility to ensure not just the quality of the work coming out, but the quality of the guys doing the work. And it was my job to manage that process. And with the documents I was getting through, and people were saying, oh, you only need to check 10%, my head's always thought of things slightly laterally. I've always thought, if you're saying to me you only need to check 10%, you might be thinking 10%, but I'm thinking 90%, and you're thinking 10% checked, I'm thinking 90% not checked. And that, I guess that's where it started, that's where it was born initially. And I never done anything with it for ages because people kept saying to me, don't tell anybody your ideas, they'll get them pinched, they'll be pinched off you, and oh, you've seen it in the movies, and I'd never really been in business, so I was really nervous that I'd tell somebody about my idea and it would be stolen from me.
Funnily enough, yeah, I know. Yeah, that rings an ironic bell, really, doesn't it? Well, I mean, me and you have been in this industry. I mean, I've been in this industry since I was 17, and it's an industry where people do steal your ideas.
They do, and it's sad, really, because
Stop it, Bella.
Come up and
Stop it.
they start licking me now.
Sorry. Stop it.
Kissing Paul and then kissing me, and it's
She's a tart.
yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, go on.
It is an industry where, and I've always been one where you meet a lot of people who read books, and I do like to read kind of books that give you a little bit of an insight into how other people are thinking, and one of those books is The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And I know a lot of people think, what a load of tosh, what fits one person doesn't fit another, but there are some really cool things that are said in these things, in these books, and one of them is synergies around, it's like E5. If we talk about E5, and yes, I'm not as qualified in terms, or competent in terms of some of the work that you do, or some of the work that Sparky Ninja does, and so on, but yet there are still things that I've learned in social housing on how to manage risk and compliance that you might not be fully conversant with.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
And I've always been of the opinion that if you get yourself in an arena where you can all share, and you can all synergize, and you can all talk with each other, we all become better people. And that's, unfortunately, there's more people who will take more from you than you give.
Dan did this talk on business the other day, the business coaching, and there's a Tesla statement on his banner. I'm not fussed that they stole my ideas, I'm more fussed they didn't have any ideas of their own, I think is a Tesla quote. And it just resonates, because I've found over the years, and I'm trying not to sound arrogant, but I've had loads of ideas nicked off of me, and some of them I've offered up freely, because I always, if anybody asks me for ideas, give me a subject matter, it's one of my skills. I can just come up with loads of different ideas and thought processes and turn it upside down and think of it a million different ways. But recent years, it's heartbreaking when people nick your ideas and don't even ask your permission, or at least say, look, I want to do something with that, hope you don't mind, because my reaction would always be, no, go for it. I work a full-time job, I haven't got the time and the resources to do that. But this last year, if I'm going to really summarise, because it's December now, it's really been a heartbreaking year in that respect.
It's sad. It is sad when it happens, and there are, in my day-to-day life now, in terms of my business, there's people who are seeing that they do what we do, and I kind of heart of hearts know that they don't do that.
Yeah.
And with you and me with E5 and stuff, there are people kind of stepping out, and I guess the positive mental attitude that me and you have, the way that we think and the way that we help people, we should take that as a little bit of a kick. We should be disappointed in it. Yeah. However, you look at the industry now, you look at the manufacturers engaging with people, you look at the colleges getting more stuff and it being more publicly known, you look at these digital marketing organisations that are running competitions and they're talking about going back to the roots of the industry. That's only really come about since E5, and it would be nice if they were watching this and they decided, do you know what, let's give these 5 guys a little bit of credit, because they've gone out of their way.
Yeah.
And so, as much as it feels like we've been backstabbed, somebody saying thank you.
So believe it or not, I don't. Okay, so let's be clear. So when I started out with E5 and everything, I never did it to ever get any thanks or thank yous. I did it to help individuals. I've helped manufacturers in years gone by, and the growth and the organic direction of the 5 of us steering that ship has made us realise that the support and educate part of our mantra is key, and that manufacturers are not doing enough, and the colleges are broken. I was at one the other day, and it made the other ones I've looked at look positively rich. I mean, they were working on boards from the early 80s. None of their equipment was new. Every scrap of cable was being recycled. Sorry about her, Bella. Stop it, darling. Every scrap of cable was being recycled. She does. You are something else. So every scrap of cable was recycled. Every scrap, every gland was reused. They had nothing of nothing, and this is the biggest problem. There is. Let's be honest about it. There's a couple of hundred chaps a year, and girls, coming out of these colleges. Are you biting me now? Coming out of these colleges who are 3 years trained, can barely get experience because the industry won't put their neck out for them to give them experience, right? They're told they're qualified, but they're not Sparks yet. Even if they've done 3 years full time, they're still not, because they don't have the necessary experience. and they've not even done electrical installation to the equipment that people are installing. I mean, you know, you look at like Dave Savory, he'll put a junction box or a Garrow unit in, you know. None of the colleges have got Garrow units. None of the colleges have got all of these Vargo or Wago junction boxes with all this. They're still working on plastic connector blocks. They're still working on single core cables, which they then recycle. They don't throw it away. They recycle it. They cut the ends off until it's unusable.
And then, just as a perfect example, you look at, is it Wago or Vargo?
I think it's Vargo, but I'm English, so I just call it Wago.
Yeah, I remember we did a podcast or a
Wago
video.
Geezer.
We did a podcast and a video. Just bite my hand then.
Stop it.
Did a podcast, didn't we? And I said it was what was that guy's name from X Factor? I remember that somebody put the picture of
Wagner. Yeah, I did that. I edited it on the Ramble. Right. Yeah, so when we were at Warrington, yeah, the Wagner.
But the interesting thing is, just to put that into perspective, these people are coming through colleges, because it's not always young people, it's older people as well.
Well, I've learnt this year that there's no such thing as an apprentice isn't a youngster. It can be of any age.
Absolutely.
I didn't realise that.
If you've got chock blocks, connector blocks, whatever you call them in the industry, and that's what you're taught with, and then all of a sudden you go onto site and there's a box with these Vargo connector blocks in.
Yeah.
Wago, Vargo, whatever.
Vargo, yeah.
So you pick one of them up. Just a perfect example of having experience and knowledge when you go on site. Now, there are some electrical contractors who are very persnickety in terms of costs. So they will say every penny counts. And you pick up one of these Wago boxes, connector blocks, and you shove your cable in, and then all of a sudden you think,
what?
I need to put that through that hole. I only recently found out that if you get the cable and rotate it a particular way, it can pull the cable back out of a Wago connector. You can actually pull the cable.
There's a way of doing one, isn't there? Yeah.
No, all of them. You can twist them and pull them back out.
Oh, really?
And I was shown that at Alex. Now, you think how many people aren't aware of that and cut them off and throw that one away and use another one?
Yeah,
I bet you there's thousands wasted.
The waste, yeah.
But it's a really silly example. But when you consider the people going through colleges and they're being told, use that PVC 25mm back box but just rotate it. Don't use the bit where we've already drilled the holes.
The biggest scare for me is as a client and an end user is we have got hundreds of people coming into the industry every year. Never mind the short courses, the people who have done 3 years in college who have no experience on using the latest technology, the latest equipment, and all the rest of it. She's a suck up.
We are in a position now, I think, where when I passed my driving test, I was always told, just learn how to drive, and when you pass your test, you'll learn how to drive.
Okay.
I was always told that. We are almost at a point now where the electricians are taught how to be electricians, but as soon as they leave college,
they then have to
learn how to be electricians.
That's an interesting statement.
And as an employer, are you willing to accept the cost burden of having to teach somebody how to do something they should have learned?
I'll rephrase that. I think I have to by default, because most employers don't realise they are. And this is where you get electrical contractors who are winging it. And I've met electrical contractors where you've gone on site and you've spoke to them, and within a few minutes you've realised that one person in that room has sufficient technical knowledge, but they can install a bit of pipe, they can do the glanding, they can put the containment up, but it's a much strained and joint effort. I've worked on one site where a shop was being refurbished. Bella, stop it. Sorry.
Trying every single trick in the book.
That's why we're not doing that many conversation couches anymore, because of this dog. Because she ate the last 2 guests, and Mike Andrews won't sit here anymore in case he gets his suit ruined. Anyway, we had one guy who was young to it, and he didn't know that he didn't know. And there's me as a client, and he's like 3 or 4 layers of a subby down, teaching him stuff, showing him where he can go and learn the videos online and understand the technology. And me, myself, the only reason I knew how to do stuff was because I was going to Alexis and learning and speaking to the manufacturer directly and going, that's really good, that's innovative, that's how it works.
That's important.
The manufacturer's instructions in most equipment we buy, because of all these EU regulations, are crap. They're rubbish. It's like IKEA furniture. Yeah, if you don't follow that manual and embrace it and almost absorb it, you will fail. You will screw it up somehow and you'll just get shouted at because you failed.
It almost makes you think that the manufacturers are, and they're required to put certain information in the box, and they've got themselves to a point where they don't really care about the consumer. They just do what they have to do, rather than sitting down and creating some content that they can put in the box that a consumer will open up and say, this manufacturer really wants to help.
I don't know if it's they don't care about the consumer. I think it's...
That's a strong word, I get it.
No, they'll only care about the consumer if the product requires caring. Marketing 101.
Yeah.
So if it's something inert and a piece of plastic, what's there to care about?
Yeah, true.
It's functional. True. If it's something that does great, like arc fault detection, then it's, put marketing of kids with dogs and all that and make it all fluffy. Although we know AFDD works, although there may be some problems with that, but we'll see how that goes.
So to go kind of right back to the initial question and kind of that move into software, that was where that came from in terms of just my pain points of having to deal with documents. And I've got a real kind of love for software now, because I'm starting to the team I have in TCW and the founding directors, when you consider the expertise that I've got within TCW now. I mean, there's 2 ex-PLC directors, people who in the 1990s floated a business that is now worth millions and millions of pounds and is still going today. The founders of companies like GB Group and so on are my co-founders. They're the people who I sit with on a day-to-day basis, and they tell me all about the fantastic things they've done with all the many ideas they've had. And getting that inherent love for what you do is software is such a unique thing. And we had a discussion upstairs earlier on when we were talking about what is capable within software and what I'd love it to do this. And you've got to kind of think a little bit wider than just seeing something dead point blank and saying, I'd love it to do this. You'd love it to do that, but just take a couple of steps back, maybe think a little harder. By doing that, do you exclude something else? And is it worth building the whole package rather? It's such an interesting, and with the company that I'm in, that I'm kind of leading at the moment, you consider the likes of machine learning and artificial intelligence, and we're not there yet, but the team are talking about that. And when you start understanding that in the future, computers can define and understand human interaction, it's like space. Again, we were talking about International Space Station, and the science behind the different things that we do kind of really interests me, and that's why I'm in it. Yeah,
I mean, I've met your team. Your team are awesome. I have to say, I've been to your offices, and they are just the nicest, salt of the earth people. But see, for me, software is a bit of an enigma, because I thought that software peaked at Street Fighter 2. Okay, so everyone watching this nodding, Hadouken. Oh, you can. No,
Dalsim,
yeah, Sagat, M. Bison. I remember all them. Ken, Ryu, the lot. It peaked. I never thought it could get anything better than that. But I kind of discovered a term about 3-4 years ago called the limitless possibilities of life, and that has to apply to software. And I mean, I use your software now for rail, and it's what it's done is it's given me an invisible tag team partner who I can just dial into and go risk. Oh, I wouldn't have had time to do that. I wouldn't have time to know that. I wouldn't have time to know this. That can now focus my rebuttal or my questions into my supply chain, which wasn't ever possible. And this is me. So I'm not, I've said this before, whilst I am an engineer, I'm an electrician, I embrace technology. Do I like the speed and the application of where society takes it? No, because things become too obsolete and that affects carbon and environmental. I would rather us go slow and steady. But the fact of the matter is I remember when mobile phones came out, we thought they would be a fad, and the internet, it would be where we are now. Where are people like working in government now? Where is, you can see people can buy glasses, virtual reality, immersive technology. If you'll start mapping and stitching software together into bigger frameworks, the possibilities are endless. Possibilities are endless with software and technology. It takes our physical wiring. I mean, we did this on a video earlier on, me and Dave, where we're going to be running Cat6 to socket outlets and plugging TVs into sockets and removing the DC converters and just running data and power in houses in 20 years' time. We're not ready for that. We're not structured. Our mindset and our behaviours, and I'm one of them.
Technology is being forced towards us. It 100% is being forced towards us.
Well, if you want the latest tech, you have to buy it, like Apple. If you want the latest iPad, you have to buy the charger. You know what I mean? You have to. Otherwise, you can't do anything without it.
But the interesting thing about technology that I've learned, and I'm 4 or 5 years into the company, and although the last 2 years we've really been starting to get loud, and we've been quiet on purpose. And when I say we've been quiet, I mean the company's been quiet. I haven't been quiet.
Haven't you?
No. But one of the interesting things that I've learned, and I had the pleasure last year going to the UK Tech Leader Awards, and I was nominated for Disruptive Leader of the Year award. And I was up against some ridiculous companies, and I'm talking the Microsofts of the world, the Apples of the world, and I'm sitting in this room with real technology evangelists, like real software gurus. And I was speaking to a guy on the table, and he said to me, one of the interesting things about software is it's very easy to get it wrong. One little slight move, you completely get it wrong. So I did research into that, because I don't want to be one of those people who get it wrong.
No, you don't.
And Forbes released an article that said 1 in 10 software companies, 1 in 10, are the only ones that get to a point where they make money and they have actual customers. 1 in 10 software companies will ever make it. I didn't know that. It's in a Forbes magazine, and when I read that, I thought, Christ, the odds are not against me. Luckily, we've crossed that bridge now. We passed that about 6 months ago.
For those of you watching this, you don't know what Ryan's software or technology is. It's forgive my crude application of it. So Ryan will tell you it is a intelligent piece of not just software, but it's a tool that enables you to extract data from electrical, gas, Legionella, any sort of compliance documentation, and it informs the owner of that documentation of where their risk is, what levels of compliance they have, where they need to then render further investment, how they question possibly the contractor doing the work, the quality of the work, the competence of the testers, and also you can use data mine as well for asset numbers and all sorts. So it's an amazing piece of technology, because that's normally someone flicking through hundreds of pages, making mistakes. I call it a 24/7 QS who doesn't moan, but that doesn't do it any justice, because it's a 24/7 asset manager who was also a QS who doesn't moan. So it's an amazing bit of technology. It's called TCW. You've also white labeled it with NAPIT and the NAPIT assurance.
Yeah,
because it is an assurance tool if you're non-technical.
Yeah, we've got a couple of white label agreements. Not really allowed to say kind of too much on that.
I'm not asking you to. I just wanted to kind of talk.
Yeah, we've some very, very kind of popular brands in the market utilize the technology, and they've embraced it because they understand that technology.
Yeah, it's client friendly. This is not for electricians as such, although electrical contractors would be wise to use it, because it could steer their ship and make sure they don't get made.
Well, I've had a few Sparkies send me some of their documents just to interest to have a look at it.
Okay.
One this morning, actually. I put 2 in this morning. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, quite a lot of people send them over and say, any chance you could put this through, because I'd like to just see, which is good for them, because they just want that second set of eyes to have a look at it. So.
Well, I've recommended it to my subbies, because I've said to them, look, I've got it, and if you send me crap, then you're not getting paid. Simple as that, really.
But hopefully this conversation couch hasn't been a bit of a pitch, because that's not what I want it to be. It's I've been very strict in terms of the
nobody knows what your business is. That's why we're doing it.
And
you've never done a podcast on it.
I haven't, and that's intentional. And we've got the beautiful Gemma who works for me. Who's I see she works for me. She's one of my closest friends that we've known each other for many years, and she's the guru behind the marketing. And we've kind of both sat down and really decided that it's not something that we want to shove down people's throats. We would like people to talk about it. We would like people to recommend it.
It's organic.
And it has to be organic. And that's...
Well, I consider myself fortunate, because one, I know you, I met you in Leeds, and that product, we've been able to bring it into rail.
It's a long time ago, that.
Yeah, I know. But we've brought it into rail, we've tailored it to rail, and now I can walk around to work knowing all this risk. I mean, you imagine my perspective. I walked into a company, here's a load of EICRs, what do I do with it? I haven't got time. Deliver, do the other bits and bobs, getting pulled left, right and centre, churn it through, bang, I've got a snapshot of compliance. It changes the rules of the game. It takes my long-term impact to the business and made it short-term impact. You're contributing already, which is really good. Right, moving away from your software, because everybody now knows what your technology is.
My day-to-day job.
That's his day-to-day job when he's not volunteering, doing E5 stuff, helping people for free. He's the leader of a tech company. So, moving on from that, I want to talk to you about a word. Okay, ready? Here we go. Influencer. Now, do you consider yourself, because it gets banded around, in our values, we use the word influence, but not influencer, and there is a difference between influence and influencer, because we want to influence people to be better. We don't want, and it's fair to say in E5, we don't consider ourselves influencers. If the industry does, that's great, but we kind of just put our fingers in our throat and go,
it's very, very, very easy to define.
Okay.
It's very easy to define.
Go on.
If you ever call yourself an influencer, you're a knob, because you can only ever be an influencer if other people consider you to be one.
Yeah.
If you go somewhere and somebody says you are that influencer on LinkedIn, we all get embarrassed by it. It does happen. Yeah. I don't consider myself an influencer. What I consider myself is somebody who is willing to stick my head above the parapet or take a step outside of that common everyday bullshit circle that we all live in and say the stuff that needs to be said. And I'm not governed by political correctness. I don't, if I see eggshells, I get a kick out stamping on them. It's influencers are people who don't genuinely tell people
you're peer nominated, aren't you? So I mean,
100%.
I was at a college on Monday morning and I walked into the electrical department and some bloke turned to me and went, "Oh my God, that's that guy off YouTube." That freaked me out, totally freaked me out.
I was at Excel last week.
Yeah.
I was on the phone at a Homes event.
Yeah.
Sat in the cafeteria bit.
Yeah.
I spotted a guy walking towards me with a grin from ear to ear.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh God, I must know him because he's smiling at me as if I know him. He walked right up to me, got his phone out, leaned down while I was on the phone, put his cheek against mine, took a selfie, turned to me and said, "Thank you very much," and walked away. I've absolutely no idea who that was. No idea who it was.
Some stalker, maybe? I don't know.
I haven't seen the picture yet, so I'm a bit worried. But they're weird. That's a weird thing to happen.
Yeah, I think it's called rude as well. I think it's rude, to be honest with you. If somebody
I'm cool with it.
No,
it is
I know,
rude.
I know,
it is weird,
I know. But yeah, so it's from an E5 and individual perspective. I mean, if I asked that question to Dave would probably hang up the phone if I was doing it on a podcast, because he'd just say, "Take your influencer title and poke it up your backside, you twat."
He's a good egg, Dave.
Dave is a good egg.
I agree with him.
He is a selfless servant to the electrical industry.
Yeah, he is.
Without a
Which
doubt.
came up with a fantastic phrase, and I remember first meeting him years and years and years ago, and he said, and it was all on the back of that drum, "Making electricians great again." I loved that phrase.
Oh yeah, that was his phrase, wasn't it? Yeah,
that was his phrase. Leveling up is another fantastic term.
Dave. So yeah. So make electricians great again. Level up. Copyright. Original idea of Mr. Dave Watts Sparky Ninja. Both have been stolen by other people and used in their marketing.
It's so sad.
Pathetic.
So
Get your own ideas. But hey, again, Dave's not upset that people have stolen ideas. They're upset they don't have their own. But more importantly, that for me, I've said this before. There is one thing that, above all else, conduct of character. To not speak and engage and ask is the height of rudeness and ignorance.
Yeah,
and that's where just you say, okay, I'm now going to keep away from you, and karma's going to be your bitch, because it will come and bite you on the arse one day.
Yeah,
because
totally
people will see the truth, and let's be honest about it, we do speak quite a lot of truth that people do tend to go, "Ooh, that was a bit too much."
I have been told,
yes,
in the last few years,
yes,
multiple times, different connotations of this statement. Directors do not communicate the way you communicate. You need to wind it in a little bit.
That's
many people have told me that I need to conduct myself better as a director.
So Dan was at a event the other day with a former chief exec of, I think it was a British nuclear or something. Someone or another. Yeah, and his advice to him was the leadership of a business starts at the very top and filters down. If you're not a good leader, your business will fail, and your company will fail, and it won't be a nice place. And I think, well, anyone who's working this, who's gone from job to job to job, there's quite a lot of them. Look at the construction industry. Rebrand, bankruptcy, rebrand, bankruptcy. Budgets are gone. Are we holding out? Are we handing the keys back to this contract? It's rife in the construction industry, and construction isn't regulated, but there are lots of bodies creating roundtables or offering an informed opinion about things, but have no authority under law or influence to do a goddamn thing. And that's frightening. So just for clarity, E5, we want to influence you. We do not consider ourselves influencers. If people do, that's great. We're very grateful and humbled that you would take the time to listen to us. You've probably switched off by now anyway, so it doesn't really matter. These conversation couches are not listened to heavily, although we may just take this and put it into a podcast, because we'll just rip the audio, so it may appear on YouTube twice. But again, if you are watching, put comments down below if you want any podcasts and stuff.
Is that all? Is that the only questions you've got for me? Surely there's got to be more. You haven't even got onto the main event yet of the questions. Jeez. I was slowly warming you up. I was trying to butter you up. So, okay, so you've told us about your background. You've told us about your technology product. Yeah. We've discussed influencers. I'm going to ask you another question now. Poker face. Go on.
No. I want to know what you think. Okay, I'm going to make a statement. The electrical industry has no regulatory body or regulator. Yeah. We both know the leadership, the self-appointed leadership of private companies in the electrical industry. What are your views on what job they are doing for this industry? Do you think they're doing a good job? Right, and more importantly, there's a leading question from that. Do you think they're doing a good job? And why do you think you as an individual, and I'm going to say this, not him, I have witnessed since I've known this man be character assassinated to his face, because we know that, but I have also spoken to people around the industry who have character assassinated you for no other reason that you are you and you are an open book, which I sit there, you know when you do that poker face and you're like, and you sit there and just smile and nod, and then you just get to the point of, now you're slagging off my mate. Yeah, okay, you're part of the problem, not part of the solution. You're wasting a lot of energy and projecting a lot of negativity my way. You don't want the status quo to change because it gives you power. So what's your view on the leadership in the industry and the whole,
to answer the first part of that question, my personal view on it, and it is, opinions are like arseholes, everybody's got one. The straight answer for that is no. The leadership of all of these unofficial regulators and all of these companies, they are not there for the industry. They are there for their members. They are there as commercial entities to get as many members as they can, to have a controlling arm. And
it's the numbers that control.
It is the numbers that control. And let's not beat around the bush when we talk about the Electrical Contractors Association, the ECA. They are a fantastic brand. They've been going since the 1900s. You have to give an organisation that has been going for that long some credit, because they've obviously been led in a particular way. I think they're probably going through a little bit of a hard time at the moment because things are changing. We have the likes of social media, which they're not very good at dealing with. Neither are the NIC, neither are NAPIT, neither are Stroma, the JIB are even worse. And the industry is changing in terms of how we interact with people.
Well, the industry bodies don't engage properly on social media unless it's to sell something or promote a story which makes them look good. They will not engage with the sparks on social media.
And I get that. And I guess my point is,
because they don't want to be culpable or held liable.
So I was on holiday recently. Let me try and put a bit of a spin on it. It's a bit of a comedy spin on it, but it's real. And I went to Turkey with the family for a couple of weeks. I went to a really nice hotel with Hannah and the kids. And I met Michael Jackson's old bodyguard. He was his bodyguard for many, many years.
Okay.
And when I was talking to him, and I says, tell me some stories about him. We spoke over a few days by the pool, having a few drinks. Mm-hmm. And one of the things he said to me, which really kind of struck a chord with me, was that he's not happy that Michael Jackson was dead. He says, What I'm happy about is that Michael Jackson didn't have to deal with social media, because social media would have killed him off anyway, because of the way that people interact with it. Because remember, before social media, you couldn't really, to say something, you had to write a letter or an email, and that email could have found its way into a bin somewhere and no one would ever see it. Now when I put a post on LinkedIn, it can get anything up to 200,000 views.
Yeah.
That's 200,000. That's 199,000.
You shared your opinion. Yeah,
people.
that's like copying in on an email. This is the statement of fact, and sending it to 200,000
So when that chap
people,
said that to me, my head instantly switched to the electrical industry, and I thought, do you know what? He's completely right. And if the electrical industry doesn't take its mind away from, we need more numbers, and unfortunately there are other like the IET are also getting roped into this numbers game, and it might work. I don't care if it does or not. The numbers game that they're playing at the moment might work, but it also might come crashing down, and it might not work.
My view on the whole numbers game is again, quote, field of dreams. If you build it, they will come. And I think at the moment industry bodies are pinching people's ideas to bring numbers to their brand, which inherently makes them money under the guise that they will make money. And I think that's a bit low, because everyone I've dealt with in the electrical industry has always been about money, money, money. And when they talk about E5, they can't get it in their head that we do it for free and we want to do it to benefit the individuals. Because if you take an electrician who is decent installer, but technically he just can't think at the pace that you would expect of an electrician, but if over a period of 2 years' time this guy's been upskilled, has access to information, access to knowledge, access to a support network, he'll look back in 4 years from the day he met, say, E5, in 4 years' time, and how much more money he earns and how much more he wants to give back. You have got a positive energy, a positive network, and people who are a lot happier in themselves. So you're looking at social problems, mental health problems, financial problems, all getting better with the right approach and the right attitude. But as it stands, it's let's nick a catchphrase.
Let's nick a catchphrase. Let's
do this. Let's get our numbers up. And I'm sorry, but I'll say this, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The ECA, the NIC, the JRB, NAPIT, they all do a good job for their members, but only when their members come to them and ask for help. So why can't all of these bodies do a good job for the industry? And I'll say this, I think I said it in a podcast recorded the other day. I challenge the electrical industry regulatory bodies. And unofficial, yeah, the voluntary regulatory bodies.
That's right.
So just to be clear, Cert Short, NAPIT, NIC, ECA, JIB, Stromers, all of that lot, I challenge them to openly have a conversation about the challenges in the industry, not women in engineering, women in sparking, apprenticeship programs. They're all important and they're all really positive campaigns, and they're good because everybody deserves an equal pedestal in the electrical industry, period. But you look, let's take a serious moment here before you get to the rest of the question. You look at all these live events, there's one common denominator that nobody's talking about in these events. They're all old men. All the people at these events, you look at the picture of the NIC Live the other day in Leeds and in Newcastle, they were all grey-haired, slightly overweight men.
Why'd you point at me then? Why did you do that then with me?
Sorry, you're overweight. I'm not. No, I am overweight.
Oh my God.
No, you're not. You're hench.
Cut
that bit.
No, don't.
But there is an age demographic in our industry. Where are the apprentices? Where are the learners? So I see pictures in NIC Live and I think, good, all them 100 men, they're learning, they're upskilling, they're getting more appetite for knowledge. Brilliant job. And that's a positive for the NIC. Lots and lots and lots of box ticking. NAPIT are the same. Lots of CPD, lots of free events. We've done some, not as many obviously, because we're all volunteers, but that's a really good thing. But you then go to a college, they're literally blinkered. They haven't got a clue, they haven't got the materials, they haven't got anything, and you're just thinking, oh my God, no wonder these guys aren't getting jobs, because the people who are having to go to these live events don't know for themselves. They're trying to just turn over a wage and pay a mortgage off. They're not interested in bringing youngsters in. There's huge gaps. And then
they're not really giving anything off at these events either. They're not really educating people. You see, they go and get the CPD and they learn.
Well, they are though, because a lot of come off it. Look at our, right. So look at the one we did. We did Alex in Sandown.
Forget us.
Anybody. They speak about our fault detection, blokes, they don't know arc fault detection. Arc fault detection is a new technology. Surge detection is a new mindset. There is in the 18th edition sufficient new things to make people want to go out and learn, which is
so the point I was making is you and me right now, as we sit here recording this conversation couch, know more about arc fault detection devices than we've let out. Me and you are in a position right now where things are going to have to happen in the next 3 or 4 weeks because we've learned something about arc fault detection devices that everybody needs to know. Right? When you go to these events, other Sparkies need to be inspired and influenced to be in a position where they go and they do what. Why do we know and no one else knows? Because what are we doing different?
We take the time to do the research.
Okay. So we take the time to research things that could potentially impact us as electricians working in people's houses and safety. Another example, at Elex, I was talking to Paul Skirm, and Paul Skirm turned to me and said, are you qualified to fit solar PV systems? I said, yeah, I've done the course. I went on a 5-day course and learned everything.
Same here,
did the installs up to 4 kilowatt.
Bedford College,
everything. Did the whole lot, did the exam, got the card in my pocket, right? He says, did you know that if you fit an inverter up in the loft and it converts it over and blah blah blah, and it's on an MCB and an RCD, if the system trips, did you know that it'll still backfeed potential DC or AC current into that installation for an additional 4.5 seconds? And I went, what the hell are you talking about? And he says the product standard for inverters says that it can take up to 5 seconds to disconnect, but yet your RCD has just tripped in 0.4 seconds.
Oh, that's right, because it's still got energy and it's still going to rectify, invert it,
at all of these events, are we not telling the Sparky sat there, next time you're working on just consider the island mode, consider the prosumer, consider the effect of these 4.5...
An uncontrolled 4.5 seconds of energy discharge.
That was my point when I said there that we're not teaching people anything. But we put the regs out that says we may fit arc fault detection, surge protection device, it's got all the stuff there. Electricians, go out there and read and learn that yourself. Don't go to an event to listen to two people who, or listen to anybody who will tell you about what you've already passed an 18th edition exam to say that you understand. Yeah,
but sometimes you need, so I'm going to kind of disagree with you. Sometimes the live events are essential because I know guys who've walked in there and I've said hello to them and they've gone, what are you here for? Oh, I've come to listen to, Jake and thingy talk about AFDD surge protection. We go and watch it and you look around the room, you read the room and the guys are like, right, it's surge protection. I know what it is because I've seen the wholesalers, I've fit a couple. And then when they start talking about calculated risk level and then the rules of thumb that you need, if it's an overhead line, TT supply, you're pretty much going to be fitting it by default. Oh, okay, why is that? Because that's where you're going to get transients from strike. Oh yeah, of course, right. But if you're in an urban and a non-urban, what's the difference, built up or non-built up?
Where did you learn that? Where did you learn what you've just said? Where did you learn about the rule of thumb and looking at kilometre away?
It was, I learned it. I learned it. No. So, yes. So I went to the NAPIT live event where they were talking about it. And I also read the regs book, and then I went, there you go, that one line there, where it had TT overhead line supplies.
Yeah, you're doing a politician's answer. Where did you learn what you just said there?
Combination of reading the regs and the NAPIT event.
So we've answered the question. They are useful.
Yeah.
Because you're what you've researched in the. That's my point. Is what I was trying to get. Is
because the live events. What do you have at a live event? You have a peer. You have a peer who's got different experience and different knowledge. At the live events, they have surge protection experts who can go into the calcs in immense detail, and that's where you then take your applied knowledge and you then go, I was right or I was wrong. And that's where, like we talk to SPD, surge protection devices, and they'll go, well, no, that's not actually how it works, and that's not how this works.
Okay, I will stand corrected because you've just proved the point.
We don't think like that. It's the same as arc fault detection. Who sits and goes to work and goes, my MCB monitor's a sine wave? We don't think like that. And this is where we need to remember whatever we do in our careers, what it was like to be that electrician on the Friday in someone's house or under the stairs or on a job, on an industrial job. You need to never forget those fundamental, it was stressful, it was lonely, I didn't have access to the knowledge. Nowadays, people have access to phones, social media, so they do, but we've got to put the right message out and try and inspire them to upskill. and that was kind of leading into where the questions were. But that's why I still go to the Nappet Live events.
No, and I
or
do
the
enjoy
NIC
them.
ones,
I do enjoy them, and
it's a different take.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you answered it the way you answered it, because
if Jake and Darren spend a lot of their time talking to a manufacturer in Germany or America, and they'll go, oh, there is a device that tests. Here's one. So Jake and Darren told me that there was, and it was at a live event, CEF Live, that there was a device that tests arc fault detection devices. I was like, oh my God, didn't know that. I've done a load of research, didn't know that. Lo and behold, there is a device in America that tests the American version of arc fault detection devices. We've actually found it. Me and Paul Skirm bounced off each other. It wouldn't work here because the energy levels and the whole voltage profiles are different, but it's inevitable. And when I did some research, what did I find? I found a patent pending for Siemens for an AFDD test kit. So they are developing an AFDD test kit, because us banging a drum going, we don't trust it unless we can independently verify it, the manufacturers are going to go, yeah, we're not really going to sell many of these until we can actually show them that they work.
So let me, in my honesty and in the fact that I don't communicate like a director, let me ask you a question. I know it's meant to be the other way around.
I was going to say, yeah, what's going on?
Let me just ask you a question.
Go on in.
So Darren and Jake at an event
said
that there was a device that tests arc fault detection devices.
Yes.
You then found out that there wasn't.
No, I found out there was in America.
In America?
Yes.
Do you think they were talking about the American one or the Siemens one?
The American one.
How do you know?
Because they said it costs megabucks. Megabucks, yeah.
Oh, that's what they said.
Yeah.
They might have just got themselves out of something there if they said bucks.
Why's that?
I don't know. I just don't know whether or not that some.
No, they do the research as well. They're not idiots.
Good.
They're not
Good.
idiots.
And so
I've spoken to them before and after. They're not idiots. They've done their research, and in fairness, it's their job.
Yeah, no, and it is.
It's
and
their full-time job. So I expect.
I remember the couple of meetings I've had with Darren. Hello, Darren, if you're watching. And the last one, the last meeting I had with him, where he was telling me that he was that he teaches people how to public speak, and he was trying to force me into going on a course with him to do it. Sorry, I never did that, Darren. I probably should have.
Do you need a course to go on public speaking?
I don't know. He seemed to think.
Hello, I'm Paul. Nice to meet you. Okay, yeah, that's the politician stuff. Really, bollocks to all that. You just got to speak the truth. And
so, if you want any public speaking, Darren Staniforth from the NIC, apparently get in touch. Yeah, he's very good at that.
I don't know if I'll do that. I have a part of my brain where I have to apply brakes and filter, but that's when I'm around boards of directors, where if I talk in a ranty spark way, it gets nowhere. But then you have to talk in tactically. You have to talk about risk, and this is the knowledge. These are the facts. And that's one of the good things about being professionally registered. It helps develop your restraint techniques and how you communicate.
Because I'm still haven't filled mine in.
Well, you will eventually.
When it to public speaking, which we seem to be doing a hell of a lot more these days. Sometimes if it's not a subject that I'm 100% au fait with, I really don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
But you put me in front of as many people as you want, talking about things that I kind of enjoy.
Yeah, but if you've got a skill set and you're confident in your application and the knowledge. So I talk about lighting, but I don't talk about all lighting, but I talk about the lighting systems and the procedures and the standards I'm confident at to give a different perspective after been doing that for like 6 years. I can talk about railways till I'm blue in the face. I can talk about electrical or regulations or standards or law till I'm blue in the face, because that's my skill set. If you said, Paul, you're going to stand up and talk about social housing, I'm going to go, huh. So there's these things called flats, and they stack them on top of each other. It's called a tower block, and they've got electrics, and they run cables in these risers, and everyone has these magic things called fuse boxes. I don't know. That's it. Oh yeah, we've got to have fire doors in it and stuff, and
That's it. He did it.
Oh really?
He did it. Well done. Yeah.
Oh really? Okay.
High five.
High five. Okay. There you go. So I'm an expert in social housing now. I should write another code of practice.
You should,
then.
yeah. Too late. We've already done one. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. No,
okay.
We are doing one.
Right. Well, let me get on to my second part of that question. Okay. Why do you think the industry? Because I'll be honest with you, I've known you longer than the other E5 guys. You're not an arsehole. You're not. You're a caring, passionate bloke. You're a family man. And you give a shit about stuff that realistically you don't have to give a shit about. You do because it's in your DNA. And obviously your background, your training, your Navy days, your police days, you're very much someone for truth and justice and the right way of doing things. The industry has treated you like crap Now we know why, because there's a few people in the industry who just obviously you won't toe the line with. But what would you say to the industry who make informed decisions about you without having met you? I mean, this is one way of telling people who you are.
Well, I've met a lot of them. I've met a lot of the executives, the kind of the really high profile executives in these organisations who we've sat in bars in London, and we've sat in seedy places so that there was no one else around, and we've had kind of open, honest conversations. I've never met anybody yet who hasn't said to me, "You are nothing like what they said," and that happens quite a lot. I do meet people around the country regularly who say to me, "Oh, you're nothing like they told me you were." And then when I try and dig into what they mean by that, I've got a little bit numb to it now, so I don't really ask anymore. Yeah. But I used to see it. What do you mean by that? Who says? And then people kind of they shy away when they realise they've done a little bit of a Freudian slip. And let's be completely honest. If I was bothered about it, I wouldn't be doing what I do. I think it's petty.
No,
I think the old kind of 80s mentality. You remember I'll let you listen. In my time, when it was kind of when I was publishing the article, the vlogs and the blogs that I did, I was being advised by somebody quite high up in the industry who was telling me, if you have meetings with specific people, you need to record it. So I was told to do that by somebody who's kind of sits in these boardrooms with them, and so I did. And you've heard some of it. You've heard some of the things that were said. And when somebody sits in front of you and tells you that character assassination, and then they go into explaining character assassination through the unions.
In Sparking, I think we call that a den of wankers.
Yeah, and
sorry for being so blunt.
No, and I try to be nice, and I do try to be nice, and I will always be polite with almost everyone apart from one individual. I'll be polite now for the rest of my life. When I sit there and people are telling me that in the past, when people haven't kind of conformed and come and sit on our committees, come and write our documents, but you're not allowed to tell anybody. You have to sign a piece of paper to say that you won't say anything about it. Your name won't be in any books, and you won't. But you'll help us write this content. Where's the benefit?
There's a lot of carrot danglers in the industry. If you find someone who's passionate and keen, the industry seems to almost want to milk them for all of their new ideas and have them thank them for the privilege of being associated with them, which is insane.
Let's close that question down with just a simple statement that is kind of from the heart. The only bit that irritates me, and the only bit that really gets me down quite deeply, is if my kids ever hear that. If my kids, when they grow up, ever hear that sheer bullshit about me, that is going to trigger some anger in me that I'm not going to be able to control, because I do a hell of a lot to make sure that my kids look up to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I can think of probably 3 or 4 people, if they left the industry tomorrow, the industry would change rapidly and it would be a lot better place.
I agree.
And it's because the people are invoking their personalities based on their business needs, and they're impacting the lives of Sparks. More importantly, they're impacting the competence of Sparks. And the Sparks just see as, let's be honest, you speak most of them, it's all shit, they're shit, they're shit. You know, I sit with people and they'll go, the NRC is shit. No, they're not. They actually do a good job for the members. Oh, NAPIT is shit. Well, no, they're not. They do a good job for the members, but it's, you get out what you put in. But is the industry bodies, again, I'll go back to this, are they talking about any of the really deep and dark issues? You look at our Instagram feed, hundreds of shitty photos, which we, rather than say, oh, it's all shit, we go code it. So for youngsters using Instagram, here's a tip, regulatory bodies, youngsters who are buried in their phones all the time, if you show them a picture and say what's wrong, you're educating them. What is wrong? Go and research it, try and code it, and we'll engage with you. And we'll actually, you know, get to know you and all the rest of it. So those people that they look towards will engage with them directly, which the industry bodies may not do, because I find that the industry bodies only engage with people if they go, oh, that's a good point. We can make something of that.
Yeah.
We can make some marketing of that, or we can do an article with that, because then that keeps our revenue up from the sponsors. And who are the sponsors? The manufacturers. And who pays the manufacturers? The Sparks. Who pays the industry bodies? The Sparks. There seems to be a cycle of money that's going not really in towards the sparks. And yet the industry is a multi-billion-pound industry. And when people think of electricians, they think of rank and file, they think of militant, unionist. I don't blame the, I won't call them militant, but the rank and file and the militant electricians, because they're not, they're passionate, they give a toss. You know,
and that is the key statement there. 9 times out of 10, when you meet them, they care about something, and it comes across sometimes as that they're trying to shoot you down, they're trying to kind of load their weapons and fire in your direction. But in all fairness, what they're trying to do is protect their hand to mouth, they're feeding their families, and they're just passionate people. Just unfortunately, some people are steered in the wrong direction, and they're given the wrong information, so they shoot from the hip, and that's...
So I'm going to give you some, just to finish this up, I'm going to give you some quick shoot from the hip questions.
Okay.
So I'm just going to randomly
Ask
come up.
me anything.
Favourite colour?
Green.
Favourite place in England?
In England?
Yes.
My house.
Favourite place in the United Kingdom?
Ullapool.
Where's that?
Right at the top of Scotland.
Oh, Scotland, yeah, okay, I can understand. Scotland rocks. Okay, favourite tool manufacturer?
Oh, favourite tool manufacturer.
Most people normally go for CK or Irizolas. I'm Irizola, man. They're the ones I grew up with. The orange soft handle.
Or the screwdriver got CK.
Yeah, they're both decent. It's just, one to the other. Okay, favourite test equipment you've ever used?
Well, apparently you told me it's the cheap one, but I really like my KT 64 and 65.
Dave is changing my mind on the Q-Tech one because he's doing all his 7909 stuff on it.
I had a Mega and I had a Q-Tech. I always referred back to the Q-Tech because it was 2 different devices. You had one for your continuity insulation, and then you had the other for your RCD.
That's the same for my Robbins.
And I liked them. They were my favourite.
Okay. Biggest board you've ever wired into?
Oh, I did a panel in Leeds University, which took me about 2 days. And I will not go into what happened with that, but it was probably the biggest one I did.
Hardest fault you've ever found?
I know this one because I'll never ever forget it. It's hilarious. It's hilarious.
Okay.
So I got a call to somebody's house once,
and
unfortunately the lady's chap had died a few weeks beforehand.
Oh dear.
And she said, I don't mean to laugh, but you will laugh as well when you listen to this story. I went in and I said to the lady, how can I help? And she said, my husband died a few weeks ago, and people keep telling me that it's an electrical fault, so you're here to prove that it's not. At this point, my head starts going, what the hell is this?
Okay.
And she says, every time I go on my stair lift to go upstairs, every time I walk up the stairs, his stair lift follows me up. And I'm thinking,
okay,
show me.
Right.
Go and do it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's weird.
So she walks to the front door.
Yeah.
She starts walking up the stairs.
Yeah.
You hear the click, and the chair follows her up the stairs.
No.
Right. So me being logical, thinking he isn't in that chair, he's not following her up the stairs. So I start looking, I start checking, I take all the bits to bit, and I'm looking everywhere. Couldn't find it.
Okay.
I was shocked. But every time she walked up the stairs, this chair followed her up the stairs. It didn't skip a beat. Happened every time.
Wow.
Eventually, I found out that the cable that supplied the chair at the bottom was ran up the 3rd step right in the corner, and it had been shoved in, and over time, as the wooden staircase, when she put the weight on, there was a pressure against the switch.
Yeah.
And it was the pressure was triggering the switch to take it up.
So
it was pressure, and honestly, hairs on the back of my head just when she went up those stairs the first time. That took me forever to find. That took me forever, and I only found it because I traced the cable that supplied it from the consumer unit, which was under the stairs, and as it came around and it ran through, I ended up disconnecting that and disconnecting it from the chair, and then running a brand new cable round, because when I tested the cable there was nothing wrong with it, and it was just by chance that I ran the cable round, and then when she walked up the stairs it didn't happen, and I said there's obviously a fault with that cable, and then I found out where it went, and that was all it could have been.
Yeah, that's my one was in an office block. I was doing testing, and it wasn't as bad as that. It was a lighting circuit, and there was a fault on the lighting circuit, and I couldn't find the fault, and I spent 8.5 hours pulling the circuit to pieces, taking every light fitting down, trying to suss out what it was. Power was on, power was off, and it came down to the stupidity of the cable was tucked behind the screw clamp in the breaker, and it was literally every time I went near the board it moved it, so it was on. So when I put my probes in, it was on, no problem at all. But when I walked away, it wasn't. So I was going, well, there's no power. Where's the broken cable? Mega. Pull a massive circuit apart in a 3-phase board, and then I was just like, I just don't get it. And I literally went, right, I'm just going to put this away. So I grabbed the cable, pulled it, and I went, oh shit. Oh dear.
Let's not beat around the bush. It is an awful job sometimes.
Fault finding's a nightmare.
It's
a nightmare.
interesting. It's good when you get there.
So okay, so enough of the short questions. So where do you want to be in 5 years, and where do you see the electrical industry going? And then we'll end it.
Me personally, we've got things happening next year with E5 that we'll tell people about in the new year.
Do we?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do.
So we've got things with E5. So I want to do more with E5 because I really appreciate what Dave, what Dan, and what Paul's do. But not only that, I really get a kick out of seeing the likes of Lee Ward. Did you see him do his talk at the House of Parliament?
I nearly cried watching it. That was intense, wasn't it?
What
well
an
done,
absolute
Lee.
Superstar. I really like to see, and I'm not saying we've inspired him to do that, because he did that from his heart.
Oh,
but
it was all heart.
He's one of him and other people who are standing up and they're speaking up. I love seeing that, because the more people we can get engaged, the more people we can get asking the questions, the better.
Let me rephrase that. I don't think I've met anyone in the electrical industry in the last 5 years who hasn't said the industry's in a bad state and it needs to improve, and there's criticism all at every single door, period. And I think I've met probably maybe 3 people who have denied that. One of them was a chief exec, former of a major voluntary regulatory body. The other one was a technical director, former of a major regulatory body. And the other one was someone who actually didn't have a frigging clue about the electrical industry, just happened to fall into it in a management manner. That's to me that's like putting logs on a fire, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
constant. There is a problem. But
so to answer the questions, for me personally, dedicate a little bit more time next year to E5. Let's get it where we believe it can get to. For TCW, there's a lot of things in the pipeline that I've been holding back with TCW, just because. For example, there's a fantastic opportunity for me in Australia with TCW, and I've held that back massively simply because you take a business to Australia, it becomes a 24-hour-a-day business, and my kids are young, and selfishly I'm holding the business back on that and not pushing forward with it. Not just me, other directors.
Family first.
And I think that'll happen next year. I think that will go in the next 2 or 3 years. I want more people to benefit from the technology.
Your company, I've been to your office and you have Ryan Dempsey hasn't said anything, but he's the first company to have a CWO, Chief Woofing Officer, where they have a dog in their head office, which is awesome. Because it's an absolute sweetheart of a dog. All dogs are loving.
That's Ian Woolsey's dog.
No, but it's good. A company that has a dog in it is awesome, because it has that right balance. Its work is not shackles and a prison. Sparking can be shackles and prisoning. One of the things I loved about domestic house bashing, you go to people's homes and the dogs would always come up to you and you could spend ages. And animals are great therapy. I mean, look at this little thing sitting away snoring happily. So, so where do you see electricians going? Because I had a very controversial chat with Dave the other day about the title of electrician.
Yeah,
I think she's going to move quite a bit over the next 5 to 10 years.
Personally, I think that the industry is making some wrong moves. I think in Scotland they're making some wrong moves. They're trying to protect the title electrician. Now,
no, they're not. They're just creating a monopoly.
They are, but let's kind of address the question in terms of the protecting the title electrician. I can see that ever since
if they protect the title electrician, great, but it has to be then owned by an independent, non-for-profit.
And it won't be. It'll be owned by them or a subsidiary of them.
But then that's not protecting anything.
It's not. You're right. But
just
more to the point. Ever since I've been in the electrical industry, I've been battling in many organisations I've worked for along the title of multi-skilled workers, where people who carry out electrical work, gas work, electrical work, carpentry, joiner, and all of this, they all have a little bit of knowledge to do all of the different things. If you come out with protecting the title electrician, I'm telling you now, what will happen is you will have electrical workers, you will have multi-skilled workers, you will have
they'll move the goalposts.
Technicians. Yeah. People in companies will simply change the title
electrical
of what a person does. You can protect the title, and it will become a worthless title. And I'm nervous with that, but I also understand that you're protecting a title of electrician. That's not just the issue. In 10 years' time, every electrician watching this and every electrician in the country should know in their heart of hearts now that in 10 years' time, if they're going to be in the industry in 10 years' time, they need to realise that when they wire a house in 10 years' time, instead of just pulling a flat twin and earth to a point, they will be running fibre to a point or coax data cable to a point.
That's inevitable, isn't it? Yeah.
Because energy efficiency part 8 that's coming in, the telly that's behind this camera now runs on a DC current. And we're generating electricity on a roof, we're running it through an inverter, we're converting it, we're using energy to convert something over to then reconvert it back to power that telly. What they're seeing is it's much more energy efficient to generate the DC and supply the DC appliances within your property direct from the solar PV
there.
Or from your car on the drive if you've got an electric car. So electricians now, the title of an electrician will change because a data cabler. Protecting a title now isn't dumb. It's a dumb thing to do. But 10 years time, we won't have electricians.
I think it'll be a little bit longer than that, but I don't think you're wrong. I think there's just generational shifts and acceptance and tolerance and changes that need to happen.
Yeah, you're completely right.
Yeah. Well, this little one's knackered and she's yawning, so she must be bored listening to us. So should we end this? Because this is probably going to go as a podcast as well, I think. We should put this out as a podcast.
I'm cool.
So this is a YouTube video, but we'll put it as a podcast.
I'm happy we've got that out of the way actually, because I was nervous about being interviewed, because I have said a lot of things in the industry and I have done a lot of things in it.
Think of it like this.
I imagine if we got some of the senior executives to ask the question, they'd have asked a lot more.
Let's put it like this: if you think you've said a lot in the industry, I haven't even started, and I've only got 26 years left till I choose to retire. So wow, what a journey I've got.
I'd love to see some blogs from you, Dave, and so on. Just
that'll happen. Well, it's at the end of the day, we work full time. EFI is a voluntary thing. All of that over the next 3 to 5 years will all organically come out, and it will hopefully allow people to make better informed choices. But as Dave always says, what we want to do as a prime thing is inspire people to level up, to upskill, to question for themselves, to trust but verify. So so thank you very much for watching this conversation couch. Hopefully we haven't bored you too much, or listening to this podcast. Until the next one, take care of yourself and each other. Bye.
See you later.